For more, let's bring in today's foreign policy panel, former ambassador at large and coordinator for counterterrorism, Nathan Sales, former National Security Council Senior Director, Michael Allen, and former Deputy Pentagon Press Secretary, Sabrina Singh. Thank you for being here. We have maybe the best foreign policy panel all weekend long on any channel because all three of you have played integral parts in the meetings and preparations that happen before an event like we saw in the Oval Office, which I think for all of us, we were stunned to see how it went south. Ambassador, I want to start with you, though. What Lucas was referencing, and that's kind of where it ended. And that was when President Trump was outside the White House waiting to get on Marine One, and he had this to say. Listen.
How long do you think it will take for Zelenskyy want peace and let it back to the White House?
Well, he says he wants it now. He wants to come back right now, but I can't do that.
So, Ambassador, what was your reaction to what happened? And also, where does this go now? Can the deal get back on track?
Well, Griff, my reaction was disbelief. These things are highly staged, managed, orchestrated events. Every time you have the President of the United States sitting down with a foreign counterpart, nothing goes to chance. Unfortunately, that's not the way this played out yesterday. And look, maybe I'm old-fashioned, maybe it's the way I was raised, but if you're a guest in somebody's house, you don't fight with them. And I think President Zelenskyy missed an opportunity to get an incredible win that could have put his country on a path towards a just and sustainable peace. I say this as somebody who has supported Ukraine for the past 3 years and wants to see an outcome here that preserves Ukraine's sovereignty and integrity. Unfortunately, by getting into a fight with the president, by getting into a fight with the vice president, President Zelenskyy set back Ukraine's cause.
Was it disrespect in your mind?
I think anytime you come to the United States asking for help, you have to be grateful for the assistance you've been given. And you're not here to dictate terms. You're here as a partner, a valued partner to be sure, but not as somebody who's here to dictate terms to the United States.
Sabrina, I want to go to you because obviously I want to get your take on what happened, but also the whole part about Senator Graham, who has been one of his strongest supporters and made multiple trips to Ukraine, now coming out saying, hey, I told President Zelenskyy, don't take the bait, don't let this fall apart, just get the deal done. Here's a little bit of what Senator Graham had to say.
Somebody asked me, am I embarrassed about Trump? I have never been more proud of the president. I was very proud of J.D. Vance, standing up for our country. We want to be helpful. What I saw in the Oval Office was disrespectful, and I don't know if we can ever do business with Zelenskyy again. I think most Americans saw a guy that they would not want to go in business with.
So, as we point out, Graham has been such a supporter of Zelenskyy, and the thing now is, once you lose a guy like Graham, that's not good. What's your reaction to all this?
Look, I think to what was being said earlier, there's a lot of work that has to be done on repairing this relationship now. I think both sides are going to have to take a look and see how we can come back to the table. I think President Trump is someone that likes, his ego placated, and certainly that did not happen in the Oval Office yesterday. I also think it's very hard to sit there as a leader who's overseen a war for 3 years, lost hundreds of thousands of soldiers, men and women on the battlefield, and to see this kind of revisionist history presented in front of you and not push back. That being said, should it have played out the way it did? No. So in terms of Senator Graham, he has been an ally of Ukraine. I hope that, temperature is cool and he does come back to the table. At the end of the day, though, when it comes to President Zelenskyy, that's a decision that Ukraine has to make about their future. And it's very hard to have an election right now when you have Russia occupying 20% of your country. That's a good point. Michael, I want to ask you and I know you've played a big role in meetings like this. Do you feel like, because the meeting was pretty good for about 30 minutes until it ended the way it ended. What's your reaction to what happened? And also, last night, my colleague Brett Baer
gave Zelenskyy 3 different opportunities to apologize, essentially. As Mark Thiessen said in a tweet, it's like a drowning man refusing to take the life raft.
Yeah.
Should Zelenskyy had a different answer with Brett last night?
Yeah, I think so. I think here's the way back. First of all, he can apologize without groveling. I think he can say he regrets that he advanced so many arguments and was trying to debate this in public. I think that was the fundamental mistake. You're supposed to stay really disciplined on what your message is in such a high-stakes meeting when the media is in there, so he should have cleaned that up. I think Zelenskyy also just needs to understand that where Donald Trump is that he wants to be between the two parties. He sees himself as the honest broker to end a conflict. What you saw Zelenskyy say over and over yesterday was, wait, we're the ones that got invaded. Why would you not be on our side? We're your historical friends. We're the one that has shared values with you. Instead of trying to argue against where Trump's position is and the paradigm for how he's going to solve this, I think he just needs to be able to accept that this is how Trump is going to play it. And I need to be seen as not the obstacle to peace, but as someone who is welcoming peace. Because if you give Putin a chance to be on the world stage for a little bit, he's going to be the one that's recalcitrant. He's going to be the one that starts to reject all sorts of Trumpian terms. So Zelenskyy should play this a little bit smarter and let Putin's obstinates rise.
It's a great point, and as we understand it, it was going to be the minerals deal, and then that would lead to a ceasefire, and it seems that Zelenskyy's sticking point, Ambassador, was he doesn't want a ceasefire without specific security guarantees, as I can best sort of lay that out. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, talking on another channel, it was essentially saying, like, they should have just done the deal without what happened on Friday and bring Zelenskyy to the White House. Listen here.
This agreement could have been signed 5 days ago, but they insisted on coming to Washington, and there was should have been a very clear understanding. Don't come here and create a such scenario where you're going to start lecturing us about how diplomacy isn't going to work. President Zelenskyy took it in that direction, and it ended in a predictable outcome as a result. It's unfortunate.
I want to get all of your quick sort of responses. Should it have been done differently?
Yeah, I mean, if this is the alternative, the meeting going off the rails and blowing up in spectacular fashion, obviously what was done the wrong way. Sign on the dotted line, take the win. This minerals deal is one that strengthens the economic ties between Ukraine and the United States. The Europeans have already said they're going to step up and provide security guarantees. That's 90% of what Zelenskyy wants. He should have taken the 90%.
Sabrina, your thoughts?
I think this deal was one way of getting the United States to further move forward on potentially security guarantees. Again, the administration has been pretty clear that they're not committing to that. But, you know, you did have European allies that were going to provide some of that security assistance. This deal was a way to move that relationship forward. At the end of the day, look, I mean, what played out in the Oval Office was completely astonishing. And that deal was an opportunity to sort of repair and move forward with the U.S. and Ukraine together.
Mike, I'll give you the last word. And if you can add into it, you know, what happens if the U.S. were to ultimately abandon Ukraine?
Well, I think if ultimately we abandon Ukraine, we're going to have major trouble. You saw some of the reporters begin to ask President Trump, what would you do if Russia threatened Poland? What would you do if Russia began to threaten the Baltic? So that's real fears that we, the United States, need to worry about over time, which is a rogue state like Russia invading. We also need to think about the knock-on effects of abandoning Ukraine. Trump doesn't want to have his own Afghanistan, and our Asian allies need to know that the United States is steadfast through it all. So I think this can be put all back together with a little diplomacy and a little quick work by the Ukrainians, and that's what we should look for in the coming weeks and get things back down to real business.
It may take more than a little diplomacy to get this back on track after an unprecedented Oval Office meltdown, if you will. So, Mike Allen, Sabrina Singh, Ambassador Sales, thank you for your insight. Thank you for your time. We'll see where this goes.